want my children to know that those who represented them and their school are Republican, are Democrat, anybody how somebody wants to identify.
Going nonpartisan would simply take politics off of our school board and start to remove them from the school system so educators can focus on the education of our children in Gwinnett.
Battleground Gwinnett continues this week at the Gold Dome as a bill to make the Gwinnett County School Board nonpartisan is voted out of committee. Good evening, I'm Donna Lowry. Welcome to Lawmakers on this Legislative Day 8. The first volley in what has become a bitter fight over taking partisan control out of Gwinnett County School Board and Commission began during the legislative session, the special session on redistricting. It remains one of the more contentious issues of this session so far. We're going to talk about it when two Gwinnett County lawmakers join us. Also in the show, we're going to talk about legislation to explore raising the age of children in the juvenile court system from 16 to 17 years old. Two members of the House Juvenile Justice Committee will tell us more. But first, let's head to the Gold Dome and our Capitol correspondent, Brenda Waters, with a look at what happened there today. Brenda?
Hi, Donna. First off, House Bill 841 passed today in the House, bringing East Cobb one step closer to cityhood.
On the passage of House Bill 841, the ayes are 98, the nays are 63. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed.
HB 841 now heads to the Senate. The chief sponsor of the bill, Representative Matt Dollar, spoke from the well.
House Bill 841 is a simple measure that will allow for a referendum in part of unincorporated Cobb County to allow for those citizens to decide if they want to incorporate. The proposed city has met all the legal requirements as well as all the requirements set forth in the House Governmental Affairs Committee. The feasibility study was conducted by Georgia State and found it to be feasible, and in fact, that the city could run a surplus. All this without raising taxes. The bill also calls for an elected mayor to the city. Again, 4-year term and also elected citywide. The bill calls for the referendum to be in May.
But after debate on the House floor, a few representatives argued May is too soon.
Not only have I had correspondence from people opposing the whole project, the whole proposal, but especially about having that referendum in May, because there's so much that has to be done for the elections office to be able to even do that in May. And this thing hasn't even passed. If it passes here, it still has to go to the other side. So I would definitely ask him to consider that, to move that referendum date out.
It has indeed been 4 years since the cityhood concept was first introduced. But in that time, there have been 2 House bills, 3 maps, 2 feasibility studies, and at least that many changes to the list of city services and proposed governance models. The changes are confusing, and many residents have complained about their haphazard nature. Again, the city of East Cobb includes close to 60,000 people whose lives and pocketbooks will all be impacted by our vote today. They have done their level best to keep up, but if it's been a challenge to keep up here at the Capitol, and it has, it's certainly been even more difficult for those playing along at home.
Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones told legislators to keep an open mind and let the people vote. Also on the House floor today, a rehashing of some Democratic claims that their Republican counterparts are working to diminish minority voting in Gwinnett County. This is an ongoing battle over House Bills 872 and 873, legislation that would revise the district boundaries for the Gwinnett County Board of Education and County Board of Commissioners. Representative Sam Park was the first to speak, and what he said did not sit well with the Speaker.
I rise to question the integrity of the proceedings of this House per House Rule 40.3. The actions taken by the majority to usurp local control and allow politicians from around the state to draw local maps for Gwinnett demonstrate incredible disrespect to the nearly 1 million residents of Gwinnett County whom I serve and fight for. I urge the members of this body to do the right thing, respect the will of the people, respect local control, and pass Gwinnett's maps.
Representative, I think it's possible to disagree without questioning the integrity of this body. And if you feel otherwise, then we'll talk about that. I don't question the integrity of any member, regardless of party, regardless of issue.
Representative Dewey McClain also spoke from the floor.
I've been in this house 9 years, and I live in Gwinnett County for 45 years. And what am I saying is what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And what we did on day 5 was wrong as 2 left shoes.
Now, Donna has Representative Sam Park in studio later in the show, as well as a statement from Majority Caucus Chair, Representative Bonnie Rich. Now, while the city of Buckhead has been in the news and the city of East Cobb was voted on today in the House, 2 other cities took initial steps in their quest for cityhood. In a governmental affairs committee meeting, initial measures for the city of Lost Mountain in West Cobb and the city of Vinings passed in committee. If successful, an independent city of Vining would consist of only 7,000 people. But according to testimony, Lost Mountain would become the 12th largest city in Georgia.
We have not had a single group of people, really not even any individuals, voice their concerns or be opposed to the city. We have been doing town hall meetings across the proposed city. We've done HOA. We've been to speak to HOA groups. We're all over the internet. What we have had is people that perhaps don't understand the concept of cityhood and why it might be necessary. So it's been a wonderful opportunity to talk to folks about how this brings representation down to their level.
Now, keep in mind, these measures are for referendums. Residents who would be affected still have to vote yea or nay. Mableton is the 5th community expected to petition for its cityhood this session. That's my Capitol Report on day 8 under the Gold Dome. Donna, back to you.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Now we're going to talk about issues involving children, including juvenile justice. Joining me is Republican Representative Mandy Ballinger of Canton and Democratic Representative Erica Thomas of Austell. Welcome to Lawmakers, both of you.
Thank
now,
you.
You're both on the House Juvenile Justice Committee, and Representative Ballinger, you have a bill that would change the jurisdiction of the Georgia juvenile court system to include 17-year-olds. Before we get to that bill, give us some background on why you want this to change.
Well, basically, as our understanding of how the human brain works, better science, better imaging, more research, we've come to understand that although juveniles, particularly 17-year-olds, they can make good decisions because of the influence of peer pressure, poor impulse control, and other factors. They're not able to really make that good decision or to say no. So they are, they're more influenced by outside sources than they are their internal sources. So as that science has grown, the realization that we need to have a more rehabilitative, kind of tack towards more rehabilitative treatment of those 17-year-olds rather than punitive is what they're getting in Superior and State Court. That's kind of come out.
And other states have moved in this direction.
Yes, Georgia is only one of 3 states still adjudicating 17-year-olds in their state or superior courts.
Yeah, and I know that you favor this also. Talk about that.
Yeah, and just like the chairwoman said, we're the last of 3 states. Texas and Wisconsin are the only 2 other states that have this still in place. And when you think about everything else, you think about being legal. You think about being able to buy cigarettes. You think about all the things that you are able to do at the age of 18. So why are we taking it down to 17 to where these kids are really legally being determined adults in criminal cases? There are so many things and so many dynamics that changes between the ages of 16, 17 to 18. And so we have to take that into consideration. As being a foster child myself, I've seen so many people that have done things at 16 and 17, and then when they got out of the system, and they learned about life itself and were able to determine the things that they knew this was going to be able to determine their future. They didn't make the same mistakes at 17 that they made at 18. And so I believe in this bill. I believe that we should be able to raise the age, and we should be able to do what so many other states have done at this predicament as well.
Yeah. So you talked about the teenage brain still growing. What exactly would HB 272 do?
HB 272, the first thing that it allows for is an implementation committee. So there would be a year in which representatives from the county commissions, the cities, the counties, the juvenile courts, the superior courts, state courts, prosecutors, public defenders, all of these folks would get together and find the best way to implement this initiative across the state. So we take a year to figure out funding, to figure out, how it's going to work, what are the nuts and bolts of the initiative. That's the first thing that it does, and then it actually goes into effect. So whenever it goes into effect, we have the infrastructure around it to make sure that, there aren't any interruptions.
Yeah. Representative Thomas, what about the long-term effects or even the short-term effects of someone young being incarcerated?
I want to talk a little bit about the piece that she just said.
Okay.
What bill have you seen that takes a year to really study and talk about what is really the problem, what is really going on, and then we'll implement it? There's not a lot of bills that do that. And so I think it's important, like what Chairman Ballinger said, this is a study. We are going to see what happens and then see what the result of that. But to your question, I think it's important. There are a lot of people that want to see this bill passed. There are a lot of people that have experienced things themselves that wish they had one more year to kind of think it through, and one more year to what Georgia says is adulthood. One more year to where it says, you know what, you are an adult, you can do these things. And so there is a lot of things that we could change within a year, just to the point of the raise the age bill that we've had for, school dropouts that I presented, to make sure that we can raise the age where kids can't drop out at 16 and raise the age to a higher age. They need more time to be able to consider what is going on with their lives, other lives, and so does the court.
Yeah. Representative Ballinger, our chair, where is this bill right now?
The chair is within Senate Judiciary Committee. It passed out of Senate Judiciary, but unfortunately it never made it to the Senate floor. So it has gone back to Senate Judiciary. Okay, but you feel pretty good about it? We have gotten support. The State Bar of Georgia supports this. There are the Prosecuting Attorneys Council, the Public Defenders Association, Voices for Georgia's Children. There are so many supporters of this bill just across the state that we're really hopeful that we'll be able to get it across the line and have it become law.
Okay. I want to talk about a bill you're co-sponsoring. It is a bill, a House resolution, that child safety is a priority, including situations involving custody, visitation. Tell us more about it.
And it's one of the bills that I presented with Representative Parkin, and it's so important that we really look at child safety and we really look at child neglect, because this is now a public safety issue. Over 7,000 children in Georgia alone have had cases just in the last year of child neglect. We really need to look at this, because in the foster care system, and Chairman Bellinger knows this, we spend so much money for children that are in the system, and how we talk about making sure that they reach better heights and putting them into programs that cost a lot to our state to make sure that they make it out and make it out as greater people. And so if we can take a study to look at child neglect and to look at where it comes from, whether it's in poverty, more poverty families, or it's in families that are having more mental health issues, we can really stop so many children going into the foster care system. And it is such a big deal on our budget when it comes to our Georgia budget, because we have to look at it as, you know what, if we can prevent child neglect, we can prevent so many kids going into the system, and it's so many kids out there. You know, when I first came into the legislature, it's about 7,000 children that were in the foster care system, and in the second year, it doubled to about 14 to 15,000 kids in the system.
Wow, and the ones who are aging out have become an issue. Actually, that's a bipartisan issue in terms of even the governor has talked about what to do about the foster children who have aged out of the system.
Yeah, and in the last couple of years, which has been an amazing feat, we have seen so much talk around the foster care system. I'm not going to say it's just happened since I've been there, but it has happened since I've been there, as being one of the first foster children to ever be in the legislature in Georgia. But it has been an amazing work to see so many people across party lines working on the foster care system. The governor has been working on it. His wife has been working on it. And I do think that we can really change the dynamic of so many different entities just by targeting the foster care system. If you have a young boy that has been neglected so many years and goes out and is robbing from you, me, so many other people, but we can stop that if we can nurture them with the foster care system and the aging out process. And we can impact so many Georgians with robbery, with crime, and so many things that we want to pull down, not just in Georgia, but in Atlanta. We can do so much if we help support the foster care system. So I thank Chairman Ballinger for being an advocate for that, and so many other people.
Yeah. We've actually raised the age on defects eligibility. So you can actually receive benefits from the state, educational support, housing support until you're 21.
Well, I will need to have you both back to talk more about that. I love your passion. Thank you so much for being on the show today. And when we return after a break, we'll talk about an issue that has become explosive at the Gold Dome this week, redistricting issues involving Gwinnett County. 2 legislators from that county join the show. You're watching Lawmakers on GPB.
Cigna is a proud partner of Georgia Public Broadcasting and Georgia Lawmakers. Cigna's mission is to improve the health, well-being, and peace of mind of those we serve. More at Cigna.com to learn how you can help support your employees' physical and emotional well-being.
Lawmakers is made possible by Georgia Farm Bureau. With over 80 years of helping everyone understand the importance of agriculture in our state. After all, ag is Georgia's #1 industry. Food and fiber production represents over $74 billion in output of Georgia's strong economy. The Georgia Farm Bureau legislative team works to represent producers across Georgia at the state capitol during the session and year-round. Georgia Farm Bureau, the voice of Georgia farmers.
Georgia Humanities, connecting people and communities across Georgia to encourage conversation, education, and understanding. Find out more at www.georgiahumanities.org.
We are the Southern Environmental Law Center. At SELC, we not only take on the toughest environmental challenges, we win, forcing the removal of more than 250 million tons of toxic coal ash, defeating repeated attempts to bring offshore drilling to our coasts, and securing clean air and water protections for communities across our region. Your most powerful environmental defender is rooted right here in the South.
Welcome back to Lawmakers. We're going to explore some legislative issues in one of the state's most populated counties. Joining me are 2 legislators from Gwinnett County, Republican Senator Clint Dixon and Democratic Representative Sam Park. Welcome to Lawmakers. And so let's begin with a bill that passed out of the Senate State and Local Government Operations Committee today. SB 369, that would require that future elections for the Gwinnett County School Board be nonpartisan.
Arguing that school boards are somehow apolitical because of the presence of an R or a D beside the name does not hold muster. The politics are already there. In fact, the identifiers just shed light on the politics. Honestly, this change would not solve the problem, but it will make it worse. You will still not get the long-term desired election outcome. A evolving demographic ensures Democrats will continue to win. You can't run from it. Go check your population numbers. People of color, Democrats will continue to assume every level of seat in Gwinnett County.
Now, that bill passed out of committee today in a 4-2 vote with a Republican majority in favor of it. And Senator Dixon, you first floated all of this back during the special session. And so tell us why it was important to you then and now.
Yeah, I tell you, it's a simple bill. We need to get partisan politics off of our school board, and we need the focus of educators to be focused on the children of Gwinnett, the students. Coming out of, post-COVID, I know we're still dealing with COVID, but dealing with COVID for 24 months and having schools shut down and, children being forced to be taught digitally. We need parents, we need educators and the school board focused on children and closing that education gap and not partisan politics.
I know that it's been brought up before. I'm wondering why it seems very urgent at this point.
Yeah, it's a great question. It has. It's been brought up several times in the past decade or so. It's become my biggest political issue as of taking office in 2021. It started with the unwarranted firing of our longtime superintendent, Alvin Wilbanks, and it's been kind of a snowball effect from there as far as, curriculum that's being proposed to be taught in the schools and the direction that the school board is taking.
Yeah. Representative Park, I remember I covered the special session. It took some of you with the Gwinnett County legislative delegation by surprise, didn't it?
Yes, and I think we disagree with, I think we can agree upon trying to take politics out of schools and the school board, but I would disagree with the proposal that the senator is making for at least 3 reasons. One, Republican voters during the 2020 election overwhelmingly, I think by a 65 to 35% margin, said they wanted to have the political affiliation of their school board members publicly listed. 2, this is a matter of local control. Out of the 7 Gwinnett senators, only 1, unfortunately, supports his proposal, whereas the 12 other co-sponsors are senators from around the state who are, to my third point, taking away the ability for Gwinnett voters to choose their school board member by moving the election from November to May, which is the biggest effect that a nonpartisan election has.
Yeah, and you have accused them of doing this for other reasons.
Yes, well, first and foremost, I can't support any effort to remove an opportunity or diminish an opportunity for Gwinnett voters to choose their local elected officials. During the general election, turnout's approximately 65%. During a May primary, turnout drops off precipitously to around 25%. And so it goes against democratic principles for me.
Right. We had a woman early in the show who talked about she liked the fact that she would know who is representing her, whether it's Republican, Democrat, or whatever. So why do you think you want to take that out of them? Yeah,
I tell you, I mean, if you paid attention to what's going on in Gwinnett, with our school board, it's very partisan, and we need to get that off the school board so parents and educators can focus on the children. But, I would also like to say that I don't think that moving the election, having the election in May versus November, I don't see where that, makes it any more difficult for anybody to get out and vote. I think that also, taking the partisanship off of it would make voters more informed as they go to the polls to vote. And I really think that, with the wave that's coming, this election cycle in 2022, I think folks are going to go to the polls this time to vote for their school board members and then go up ticket from there.
Yeah, I know during the special session you talked about a bill that might look at this statewide. Are you still looking at that?
No, we did. The lieutenant governor appointed me to a committee, a special study committee on nonpartisan schools statewide. Yeah. We had 2 committee meetings, and then also I talked to stakeholders throughout the state, elected officials and education professionals, and it was, it was a mixed bag statewide on both sides of the aisle, some for and some opposed to it.
So no bill on it coming out of that commission.
Yeah, just focusing on Gwinnett now.
Right. So you had it came out of committee today and now moves on possibly to rules, I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
So, all right, we're going to find out some more. We're going to change gears a little bit. Senator Park, earlier this week, your delegation had a press conference, and you made claims that state Republicans are trying to reinstate, quote, white power in their county. You specifically called out Majority Caucus Chair Bonnie Rich, and we aired your remarks, and now we want to read her statement in response to them. And she said, The County Commission chose to ignore my input, and the Gwinnett County Legislative Delegation agreed to pursue the maps without conferring with the Republican members of the delegation. Further, my Democratic colleagues' accusations of racism and white power hurled against me and the other Republican members of our delegation lack any basis in fact and are beneath the dignity of the House of Representatives. I continue to encourage the Gwinnett County Commission and the Democratic members of the Gwinnett County delegation to cease their attempt to unilaterally draft and force gerrymandered maps through the process and to instead work across the aisle to draft and approve maps that are consistent with traditional redistricting principles. And that was Representative Bonnie Rich. Your response?
So it is unfortunate that I would not agree with her characterization, first and foremost, of the proposed maps. Second, we have provided every opportunity to the Republican leader to provide compromise. I have an email that I sent to all members of the delegation on January 4th, which I'd be happy to share with you and other members, that explicitly provide all the information of a map proposed by the Gwinnett Board of Commissioners with public input gathered from 5 public town halls. We then had 2 hearings, 2 public meetings, the most recent being January 19th, in which I repeatedly asked for a written proposal from the chairwoman, from other Republican members, so that we could find some sort of compromise. After more than 3 weeks, the same amount of time in which it took the former chair of reapportionment, Rich, to pass congressional, state House, and state Senate maps, no written proposal was forthcoming for us to take into consideration or to even find some way in which we could compromise. And then, so of course, we were stunned by the unilateral action taken on Monday, in which Chairman Rich removed the maps that had the support of community leaders, Democrats and Republicans, that was carefully vetted, that was carefully crafted, and assigned it to governmental affairs, in which for this past week, there has been no action taken. There still has been no written response in terms of what Republicans want. And so right now, the maps are just stalled.
So why does it make a difference different from what's happening with other maps for other counties?
So during the last redistricting cycle, every single local redistricting bill was treated as local legislation. The only exception this year is Gwinnett County, which is why I question the integrity of the proceedings of the House. Not any single member, but why Gwinnett was being treated differently from everybody else. And again, to go back to the map is a fair map. Gwinnett voters overwhelmingly voted for 5 Democratic county commissioners. The proposed map provides competitive districts for Republican members and improves upon the integrity of multiple facets, including keeping cities together.
Okay, so I do have to say that you talked about this again on the House floor today.
Yes.
And as Brenda Waters pointed out in her report earlier, you made similar statements about the House of Representatives and on the floor, and the Speaker pointed out that he said, quote, "It's possible to disagree without questioning the integrity." You didn't get a chance to respond. You can respond now. We don't have that much time, but.
Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, in terms of what?
You know, treat Gwinnett just like everyone else. Allow the local legislation to proceed. If the chairwoman wants to provide a compromise, I hope that she does offer a written compromise in order for us to move forward.
What about the feeling that it was a personal attack against the House of Representatives?
I would disagree with that assertion. You know, I greatly respect Speaker Ralston. I appreciate the order and the fairness that he has provided, especially as a member of the minority party. But again, you know, we're talking about fair maps for Gwinnett County that have been carefully vetted by the public. These are not gerrymandered maps. And, you know, if you just look at them, it's minimal changes from the current structure.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you both being here. That's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us tonight for Lawmakers. You can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter at GPB News using the hashtag GPB Lawmakers. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow at 9 a.m. on your GPB station for Political Rewind, hosted by Bill Nigut. Good night. Thank you.